you're never tempted to call that person again. Some of you guys might need to get rid of places you decide to go. So there's a million things. I don't know what it is, but what is it that it does not honor God in your life that you need to burn? Here's the interesting thing about when you put fire to something like that. He began to tear down temples. He began to tear down all these Asherah poles and things that were set up to foreign gods. And he just wiped out everything that did not honor God in his life and in his country. But here's the thing. He didn't just like take it and say, I'm going to set it over here in this closet for right now and just kind of put it out to the side where it's not in the way anymore. Because that's what a lot of us like to do. When it comes to things in our life, is we like to kind of put it aside. And be like, oh, I'm going to not use that anymore. But it actually says he set it on fire. And guess what? When you put some of that stuff on fire, when you set things in your life on fire, there's no coming back. I had a CD growing up that I had to break because I was like, I don't want to listen to this anymore. And I put it aside a couple times because I was like, you know what? This is just not helping me grow closer to God. So I actually had put it aside and then I pulled it back out when I felt better about it, you know. And so what I did eventually was I broke it because there was no coming back. Once I broke it, there wasn't coming back. I couldn't repair it and stick it in my CD player and make it play. So what is it in your life that you need to burn? Once you've gotten rid of those things, the next thing I would ask is, what is it in your life that you need to build? See, Josiah got rid of all these things, and he burned all these things so that they wouldn't come back. He didn't just put them aside. He burned them so they couldn't come back and ever be used again. But he also, it says, he built the temple. He rebuilt the temple. He understood the thing that it was going to take for him and for the people in his country to begin following the Lord. For some of you guys, this is a decision for you. For some of you, this is a decision for you and your friends, you and your family, you and your brothers and sisters, you and the people around you. I don't know who it is, but for you, you need to make this decision. But maybe for some of you, some of the people around you, you need to help make this decision too. So what is it that you need to build? For some of you, maybe it's, I need to start reading God's Word. Maybe I need to start praying. I began a habit a while back of, first thing I do in the morning is I get up and take a shower. I don't like starting my day without a shower, so I get up and take a shower. And then when I do, the first thing I do is I just stand there and really just say, God, thanks for a new day. God, thanks for a new day. God, I recognize that you've given me this day, and I want to honor you in everything I do. Now listen, not every morning, some mornings I get out of the shower and I was like, man, I was thinking about a bunch of other stuff. But I try to connect my heart with God in the morning. For some of you, maybe that would just be the first step. You connect your heart with God for the first thing you do in the morning. Some people lay in bed and do that. I don't know what it might be. But for some of you, maybe that's the thing you need to build into your life. Maybe for some of you, you need to build some faithfulness into your life. Maybe you need to start waking up on a Sunday morning and coming down here and say, you know what, I'm setting aside Sunday to be a part of the Second Student Ministry and to be a part of Second Baptist Church, the church family. Not just the student ministry, but the whole church family too. For some of you, you need to start serving. Maybe for some of you, if you have a job, this might sound weird. Maybe for some of you, you just need to start being obedient and giving back to God. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is in your life, but what is it that you need to build? It's not the end goal. If you wake up in the morning and spend time and you read God's Word, you can't check that off and say, okay, I'm a spiritual person today. That's not how it works. But these are steps, small steps that you might take because you say, you know what, a year from now, I want to be further along spiritually than I am right now. 10 years from now, I want to have grown spiritually and say that I'm further along than I was right now. I think it'll look different for everyone, but one guy said it this way. He said, I like the way I do it better than the way you don't do it. He said, I like the way I do it better than the way you don't do it. So in other words, if I do it, whatever way you do it, whatever it is that you say you need to build this into your life so that you can grow closer to God, that's fine. But whatever way you do it is going to be better than any way you wouldn't do it. So just do it. The thing, a couple of decades ago, there were two psychologists. One of them's name was William Samuelson, and the other one was Richard Zeckhauser. And they discovered this phenomenon that they called the status quo bias. The status quo bias. And basically, simply stated, what the status quo bias says is that most of us have a tendency to keep on doing what we've been doing without giving it much thought. Did you know that you and me, that all of us here tend to have tend to keep on doing the same thing we've been doing day after day, moment after moment, year after year, without really giving it much thought? Now, if you drive, maybe you've caught on to that. Maybe every morning you drive to school, and sometimes when you're just tired, you'll start driving and you'll make that turn towards school, and you're like, I'm not going to school today. You have to turn around. I do that a lot. I go to work every day, and sometimes I need to go a different direction. I'll make that turn. I'll be like, where am I going? Because I just have the tendency to keep on doing what I've been doing. If you get a free magazine subscription, if I'm selling magazines, I give out a lot of free magazine subscriptions because people have a tendency to keep on doing what they've been doing without giving it much thought. So if I get ESPN, the magazine, in the mail every week, and then all of a sudden they say, we want to bill you, it's easier to go, oh, okay, I'll pay that. As opposed, even though I never had any intention to, because it's easier to keep getting that magazine. That's why they do that kind of stuff. That's why they give out free subscriptions to magazines. It's not because it's not because you didn't know that magazines were awesome or whatever magazine they want. It's because if they can get you to start it, then there's a good chance that they can get you to continue it. We have a tendency to keep on doing what we've been doing. So the question is, what steps do you need to take to grow? Because if you keep on doing what you've been doing, you're going to keep on getting what you've been getting. Right? If we think otherwise, it's called... Anyone? Insanity. Very good. If you think you're going to keep on doing the same thing that you've been doing and get different results, then it's called insanity. So what steps do you need to take to grow? Think about what your life could look like and what it might be that you need to build. And the last thing is to look up. And really this is something that should happen all throughout the entire process and should happen daily. As you look back, you should look back in thankfulness to God. Not just look back and be like, oh, those are cool moments, but look back and say in thankfulness to God. God, you've done this in my life. I've seen how you laid out these things in my life. I've seen how you blessed me in my life. And as you look forward, you look up to God and you say, God, I really believe that you want what's best for me. And so as I look forward, I'm not just thinking about my plans. I'm thinking about what you might want for me. And I'm going to build those things into my life. Because I'm looking up at you. That's something that we should do all the time. And that's when real change really happens. That's when real change happens. And here's why I share this. Because for most of us, and if you've been maybe a Christian for a while, or for some of you guys, maybe you grew up in the church, a lot of you may not have, but here's what happens. In a lot of ways in our life, we don't do this, but spiritually what happens is, year after year, how many seniors do we have in here? Okay, some of you guys might understand what I'm talking about. A lot of you guys might anyways, but seniors especially, they probably had a few more years. What tends to happen is, when we look back on the last year, we tend to look back and say, you know what, I'm kind of in the same spot that I was, because we go through these cycles, right? You guys have probably heard it, you go to Beach Retreat's awesome, and then spiritually you kind of decline, and then maybe you have like Fall Riot, and maybe you have Winter Retreat, or you have Premier Weekend, and stuff like that. But when you come back, you go back to here, and then it's Beach Retreat, and then you're kind of going up and down, and then you're back to here, and then Beach Retreat, and we kind of have these experiences. So what happens is, for a lot of seniors, that's the reason I say that, for a lot of seniors, they look back over their last, say you were in student ministry for 6 years. You look back over your last 6 years and you say, you know what? I have, instead of having 6 years of experience, I have 1 year of experience repeated 6 times. That's what a lot of people do with their spiritual life. That's what a lot of people do with their resolutions and stuff. A lot of people are making the same resolutions this year that they made last year because they didn't actually do anything with them. And spiritually, it tends to be the same way. Now, that doesn't work in any other area of life. We don't accept that in any other area of life, but spiritually, for some reason, we're okay with that. We can say, you know what? And I've asked students this before. I say, where do you want to be when you start Beach Retreat next year? Now that Beach Retreat's over, where do you want to be when you start Beach Retreat? Do you want to be at the same spot you were a week ago? Or do you want to have grown so you say, you know what, I'm building on top of that? But most of us, instead of having 5 years of experience, we have 1 year of experience repeated 5 times. Or instead of having 20 years of experience, we have 1 year of experience repeated 20 times. Imagine how many, if you ever played basketball, imagine you play basketball and they say, oh, by the way, that's traveling, right? You know, I pick up the ball and run with it, that's traveling. Or I do this kind of thing, I pick it up and I dribble again. They say, that's double dribble. And I'm, 6 years old. Then I come back and I'm 7 years old and I'm like, what? Traveling? And they're like, yeah, that's traveling. We taught you that last year, remember that? I'm like, well, you know, it's a new year. And then I come back when I'm in high school. I'm trying out for the high school basketball team. And I'm picking up the ball and going, hey, picking up the ball, hey. And they're like, what are you doing? That's double dribble. And I'm like,